talking the 1970 made-for-TV movie directed by Robert Day, Ritual of Evil. Now, this one's actually a sequel to the 1969 movie Fear No Evil, and both these movies featured Louis Jourdan, who plays a psychiatrist, obviously dealing with the paranormal, called David Sorrell. Now, this time he is dealing with a satanic cult on the Californian coast, led by Diana Hyland in a fantastically seductive and kind of creepy role, actually. So he's this kind of this psychiatrist who is seeing a variety of kind of people, and then the story kind of starts out with the apparent suicide of this young heiress who throws herself off a cliff. And, you know, the police put it down to suicide, but it may well be under the influence of some type of satanic rituals. And Sorrell has some experience. This is kind of the second film in a intended series that never actually materialised past these two films. So he's kind of a little bit less convinced that it's just a straight up suicide, and investigates this potential cult and what's kind of going on, and all the kind of like the machinations that this kind of group of, you know, social elites may well have, and their ambitions on one another, and it always very kind of soapy, to be brutally honest. What will happen? You'll just have to watch the movie and find out. So let's talk about what works. As I said, Hyland, I think, does a great job of a lead villain here, as does Louis Jourdan, as David Sorrell, our lead character, and they have fantastic chemistry. It's a kind of yin and yang, and the way they play off each other, I thought, was absolutely fantastic. So both actors there, one our antagonist, one our kind of protagonist, in a very kind of almost like chess-like manner, kind of with a respect for each other as well, kind of playing off of each other. I thought it was a fantastic little bit of acting for, you know, a low-budget kind of TV movie here. Now, this movie is not particularly action-packed. It's very talky. Obviously, it's a 1970 movie, not known for, you know, slap-bang action. So it is a kind of a project of its time, to be honest. But nonetheless, I do find that there is because it's so subdued, and, you know, kind of we have this kind of satanic sort of situation kind of going on, but it's never particularly overt. So, you know, what we have on the screen is more people influencing one another, rather than kind of out and out kind of monsters and kind of possession and things like that. It's more just a kind of like a nudge rather than a push. So it makes it for a more of a subtle kind of horror film where, you know, it's people are suggested things, and they kind of they'll do it, or they may well do it, or they'll do it to a degree. So it actually kind of qualities, because it doesn't go too far in the realm of you know, impossibilities and things like that. So you can imagine it's somewhat of a grounded kind of supernatural horror film, not going into too kind of fantastic you know, methods and things like that. Now, I believe I haven't seen the original film Fear No Evil, but that sounds, from what I've read about it, like it's maybe a little bit more overt. I believe it was a possessed mirror or something. Whilst this, to me, is a bit more of a kind of a grounded tale, and it does have those soapy elements. So, you know, if you're kind of liking your soap operas and kind of like backstabbings and manipulations and people trying to kind of get one over on each other, it has that kind of all that that kind of those elements in it as well. But it does have this kind of creepy undertone. I also think there's some quite neat. It's very much almost like a procedural. Like Sorrell's character is becoming more and more suspicious as he's kind of going on. He's trying to find out, but he's not a cop, so he doesn't have that authority to kind of do things. So he's using being to be quite friendly and kind of charming to try and get information, but nonetheless, we have a kind of a few twists and turns, and I think the writing is quite good, and obviously in regards to some kind of red herrings and stuff which are kind of thrown along the way. Maybe what doesn't work, it's a very, very talky film, and I suppose that's the nature of having a psychiatrist as your main character. So it does kind of go hand in hand, but those who I think maybe want a little bit more on screen, it's a lot of tell and not show. Now that's partly because, as I've said, the main character is a psychiatrist, but you also got to remember this is a made-for-TV movie in 1970. budgets weren't really massive in these things, so it was a lot of kind of suggestion and stuff. And I do feel what we do have in visual effects are kind of like in camera, just wobbly effects and things, and kind of wobbly screens and stuff to give the illusion of someone's under the influence of a cult. So visually speaking, it's not particularly kind of interesting, I have to say. And I do feel it leans a little bit too heavily on the kind of the soap elements. I mean, for times you'll forget you're watching a satanic cult movie, because it really doesn't seem like that. It feels like a kind of, you're watching a kind of a 70s, I don't know, like I say, soap opera, because it really just, it ends up kind of becoming like that a lot of the time. And as much as I kind of like our chemistry between our two, main characters, like, to a degree, some of the other characters seem a little bit too far-fetched in a cartoony-ish way. Not massively, but just a kind of a tad here and there. Overall, I think it's an enjoyable movie if you like more of a talky, procedural kind of type of more of a slow burn kind of horror film, or a thriller maybe. It's not really particularly horrific in any sense, but I quite enjoyed it. I think they could have done a better job maybe with the score as well. I think the score was a little disappointing. I'll give it a 5 out of 10. I thought it was okay. It was a good enough kind of story, I think, but it's not the most exciting of movies. But it's worth watching for Hyland and Jourdan, who I think have a great chemistry, and the characters are very, very interesting. One last thing, the ending of this movie apparently was very, very unpopular. I actually quite liked it. I'm not going to say what the ending is, but I actually thought the ending was pretty good. So I actually thought it ended on an interesting note. Like I've said, it was meant to be this kind of this ongoing series, and it was the idea being it was actually going to turn into a TV series, but it never happened. So I can understand the ending that it did have. So again, it's a 5 out of 10 from me. If you like it, kind of your old school talky kind of like 70s style movies, and it actually is kind of, it feels a lot like 60s with some of the language here, groovy and all that. But 5 out of 10. Let me know if you've seen it, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.